1910, Ted Mckenzie was a young stoker in the Royal Navy, and Robert Falcon Scott was preparing for his expedition to be the first person to reach the South Pole, and they were looking for crew members for the Terra, the ship that they were taking for the expedition. And Ted Mckenzie's engineer thought that he would be a good candidate, so proposed him to the expedition. And Ted Mckenzie's family had come from Portsmouth, and he had spent quite a lot of his childhood in Portsmouth. And that's why I got interested in him. The engineer from the expedition, Riley, interviewed him and thought he would be an excellent candidate, so passed him on to Captain Scott. And Captain Scott interviewed him, and he wanted to know really what was motivating Ted Mckenzie to want to go on the expedition. Was it for the money and that sort of thing? And Ted Mckenzie said no. He gave the right answer. He said, "I'm only here, sir, for the adventure." The interesting thing about Mckenzie was he was very, very good at his job as a stoker and very popular with the other men. He was very sporty. He was a boxer, a champion boxer in the Navy, and also champion rower. But there was another side to him as well. He was very artistic. He drew, he painted, he wrote poetry, and he was musical. He played the violin, the mandolin, the guitar and the banjo. He sang, but he also danced and did step dancing, which is a sort of form of percussive dance. So when they were looking for people for the expedition, they weren't just looking for people that were technically good at their job, but people that would fit in, would be a team player and would lend something extra to the expedition. So when there was leisure time on board, Ted would be there with some of the others that were also musical, to provide entertainment and to create a sort of jolly atmosphere in the downtimes and in the evenings. There is part of the archival film showing Ted dancing on board deck, and also Anton, who was the Russian groom who came to look after the ponies, doing the sort of Cossack dancing, you know, in the squat position, kicking the legs out. Ted Mckenzie was doing the step dancing that comes from the south of England. Well, I know as a percussive step dancer, rhythm is really important, and I respond if I'm anywhere where I'm hearing a rhythmic sound, I respond wanting to dance to it. It really catches my imagination and I want to move. And I know that when you're in the stokehold of the ship, you're hearing the rhythmic sound of the engine. And we know that the engine of the Discovery, which was Scott's other ship, plays in a 6/8 rhythm, which is a jig rhythm. When we were in the stokehold, we were listening to the sound of the engine, and there's a metal gantry in front of the furnaces where they open and shovel in the coal. And I was able to dance on the gantry to the sound of the engine. So I think Ted's always got sort of rhythms in his head. Wherever he is, he's very interested in the sounds he's hearing. When I retired, I wanted to create a project where I worked with other artists, and I wasn't quite sure how to go about this or what the subject matter would be. And then a friend of mine showed me Ponting's film of the expedition, The Great White Silence, and Ted Mckenzie dancing, and I thought this would be a great subject to work on, because I was interested in things to do with Portsmouth, interested in sailors dancing. It also meant quite a lot to me because I found out that Ted Mckenzie's grandparents were living in Portsea, in Rhodes very close to where my own great-grandparents were living, and I thought, well, maybe the families knew each other. So I found that very interesting, and I asked various friends of mine whether they would like to take part in this. So I did a sort of documentary show with 2 musicians and a singer, where we told Ted's story and put in his poetry, dancing similar to Ted would have done. A local artist, Carrie Swinburne, took my mind map of all the things I knew about Ted and created an amazing collage, which we had on display at the event that I danced at recently. Another friend of mine designs and makes jig dolls, which are little puppets that are on a stick and you bounce them on a board. Well, a few weeks back there was an event in Portsmouth called Pose, which was Portsmouth Open Studios event, and it was curated by a friend of mine, Gavin Hodson. And in these open studio events, people display their work, whatever it is, and the public can go round and view and hopefully purchase some of their work. Gavin was hoping to have some events that were a little bit more interactive, so he invited me to meet his friend Matt Smith, who is actually a lecturer at the university here in performance and puppetry, to see what we could come up with an event for Pose, which would allow people to take part and interact with us. And so we met and we talked about various options, and Gavin said, well, what about the work you did on Ted Mckenzie? So talked to Matt about this, and he was really keen to try different rhythms that might have come from the different places the expedition visited. So looking at African rhythms, South American rhythms, and we came up with a number of ideas. And at the same time, I went to the studio where my friend Carrie Swinburne works and met Trudy Barber, who's also a lecturer at the university. And when she found I was a dancer, she wanted to draw me. So I visited the next week and danced in her studio while she sketched me. And then I thought, oh, well, that would be a good idea. We could involve Trudy with Matt and myself in this project. So we met to talk about it, and then Trudy's partner, Ed Woodruff, came on board as an extra musician. So there were 4 of us coming up with all sorts of ideas of things that we could do together to create this event. And in the end, we looked at the different rhythms Ted might have experienced, put little dances to them, interspersed with factual information about the expedition, and allowed opportunities for people to do some dancing, to do some drawing, some sketching, and to get involved with the music in the way of doing percussion, body percussion, or we had some sort of shaking eggs. I think I'm fascinated with Mckenzie because I think he hears the world like I hear the world. He listens and hears rhythms in the world around him and responds as a dancer to those rhythms, and that happens to me all the time wherever I am. If there's background music or people talking rhythmically, when I'm on the train journey, there's the rhythms going on all the time, and those are constantly in my head. So I think I feel an affinity with him. Also the fact that he came from Portsmouth and spent some of his time here, and Portsmouth's a very important place to me. It's my home. I'm very fond of the city. I went away to university but came back here and worked in Portsmouth, and I'm very interested in the city developing culturally and having opportunities for young people to explore and develop within the arts. Ted, I think, was a bit of an adventurer. When he left school, he tried various jobs. He tried to be a butcher, he tried to be a carpenter, he worked in a quarry for a while, and then he followed his father into the Navy and, like his father, became a stoker. I think he wanted to see the world. He loved all the travelling. He went around the Mediterranean and he writes about the various places he visited. Went to North America and toured and made friends with people. I think he was a bit more adventurous than I am, because I went away and came back to Portsmouth.